September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and the Louisiana National Guard R3SP program is spreading awareness by displaying its To the Forefront boot display at the Louisiana National Guard Training Center in Pineville. It's to spread awareness and remember those lost too soon.
Yeah, Colin Vitros was at the display earlier today and has the details.
Every 11 minutes, a person dies from suicide, and that doesn't discriminate soldiers in the military.
You know, we talk about it. There's such a stigma surrounding mental health in our community, and especially with our service members.
Kaya Isles is the suicide prevention coordinator for the Louisiana Army National Guard. Isles is part of the Louisiana National Guard's Resilience, Risk Reduction, and Suicide Prevention program. The program's mission is to spread awareness for mental health and suicide amongst soldiers.
It's hard to talk about. We're supposed to be the strong ones. We're supposed to be the tough ones.
That led to the To the Forefront boot display that started a few years ago.
It puts things into perspective and, you know, literally makes it realistic to see how many people are being lost to the battles inside. And it puts it in the forefront for us to, know that this is a real issue and it needs to be addressed.
Each boot represents one of the 70 soldiers lost to suicide since 2003. Each dog tag attached to the boots contain an age, gender, year they died, and their rank. It's a constant reminder that individuals struggling with thoughts of suicide matter and that community support is always needed.
In order to create a mental health mindful community, you have to be mindful yourself. And so, just letting people know that it's okay not to be okay. Checking on your loved ones, checking on each other every single day. We have a system throughout the Louisiana Army National Guard where we call each other battle buddies. And so checking on your battle buddies, you never know how much of a difference it might make.
In Pineville, Colin Vitros for News Channel 5, your local station.